We're back at home in our office in East London for this episode of our podcast series. Welcome to episode 9 of Midnight Chats. The last couple we took on the road, we went to visit Joe Mount from Metronomy in a very hot boardroom at his record label to chat about their most recent album. And we also, before that, went to speak to James Wrighton, who used to be in Klaxons and now performs as Shock Machine, and we went to see him at his recording studio before he played his first gigs with his new project. Those are both available still to listen to on Acast and iTunes and YouTube and SoundCloud and loudandquiet.com, plus all the other episodes from the rest of this series. Dave Akumu, Polisa, Gold Panda, just to name a couple. So please, if you enjoy what you hear, do go back and listen to the other episodes that we've already had so far on Midnight Chats. Our guest this time round was someone who we've covered a lot over the last 10 years. In fact, she's one of the few artists that has appeared on the cover of the magazine more than once. And it's Natasha Khan, otherwise known as Bat for Lashes. And Natasha came in to see us. For some context, it was about 48 hours after she'd played this year's Glastonbury Festival, and about 5 days since the European referendum here in the UK, and a couple of days before her fourth album, The Bride, came out. And yeah, we had a great chat. She was in very kind of relaxed form. We talked about all of that, plus the wedding reception that Loud and Quiet is going to be throwing later this summer at the End of the Road Festival, which is going to be a lot of fun. And she asked us to bring some stuff along with that, and you'll hear all about that. So yeah, Natasha Khan, aka Bat for Lashes, was our guest on episode 9 of Midnight Chats. I hope you enjoy our conversation, and thanks for listening.
I'm good, yeah. I just got back from Glastonbury. Quite a muddy affair.
Yeah.
I managed to look fairly clean on stage though, which was good.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a crazy time these last few weeks. So the album's coming out next week, so half of me is really excited and happy, and then just with like politically and just the way everything feels, it's been a bit of a sort of conflicted time. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm a musician and that I get to make work I love, and I can focus on that.
Yeah. How was Glastonbury then? What was the kind of what was the atmosphere like at Glastonbury, considering there's obviously a lot going on?
It was actually really nice. It was quite special. We sort of drove down through all the windy country lanes and got to the John Peel stage, and I just felt like the crowd there were really up for like having a united, communal, sort of gentle, happy time. It felt like they were really happy to be seeing music, and I suppose in strange times art is a bit of an escape and just a nice place to go to. And so I felt a lot of love from the crowd and just in general the crowds of people. And considering it's been a strange time and the mud was like so thick that people's wellies were coming off in it and stuff, so everyone's got like power thighs after walking through that for the weekend. But
you end up walking miles, don't you?
Yeah.
It kind of seems slightly like apt that Glastonbury was on whilst everything was unfolding at the end of last week, like politically, obviously, because having been to Glastonbury a number of times, it is a place where maybe people that were there found a bit of kind of comfort in the fact that they were at Glastonbury at that time.
Yeah, I think that's what I picked up on, was just it is a place for, no matter how mainstream and big it's gotten, I think it's built on the ideals of art and creativity and play and fun and the green healing fields, and there is that pagan undertone, and I suppose it's a bit obscured now by a lot of things, but I think it's very English as well, and it's sort of I don't know, that whole thing of like the identity's lost and all of that. When you're there, you're like, England hasn't really lost any identity. We know who we are, or and it's multicultural and it's fun, and it's like, I don't know, it was just it was a comfort. I thought it might be weird, but when I went I just felt that it was nice. It was a good place to be, like you said.
Did the mud prohibit you from going and seeing anything, like experiencing any of the festival whilst you were there?
It did a bit. I wanted to traipse across and see PJ Harvey and Beck and 83 and stuff, but I didn't. We sort of drove in and out because there were problems with the buses getting stuck in mud, and so we had to actually dash off fairly shortly after we played. So I didn't, unfortunately, get to go there. But I did go and see Beck last night at Brixton. It was great. I have known him for a long time because I stayed with him and his family. Yeah, and so he asked me to go, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go, and took my little brother with me, and it was really nice. He showed me pictures of his little kids who, when I was staying with them, were tiny, and now they're like 9 and 12 or something. I was like, oh my God. And we just had a nice catch up. He's a nice man.
Yeah. I remember, speaking of Beck's children, I went to a festival in Norway many, many years ago, and Beck came on stage, and I think he was on just before Jay-Z, and Jay-Z was headlining Glastonbury that year. That's how long ago this was.
Wow.
And he was performing with a big table on stage, like a kind of Mad Hatters Tea Party was the sort of theme of it.
Yeah.
And he walked, and before Beck came on stage, his little boy, I think it would have been,
Cosimo, yeah,
walked out on stage with, you know, those like giant kids' headphones, like ear protectors rather, and he kind of walked to the front of the stage, like just sort of wandered out on his own, and like the crowd were just so like surprised to see him.
He's like a mini Beck as well.
Yeah, he is like a mini Beck, and so the crowd were just going wild, and then Beck kind of walked on and like, picked up his son, and like everybody started cheering, and that was the start of the gig. Aww. Which I thought was, I've never really seen anything like that before,
no,
which I thought was cool.
He's definitely a family man.
Yeah.
There's a nice like family vibe. When we were recording in his studio, and the kids would run in and just start playing drum machines and like singing with us, and it was just chaos, but it was good. Yeah,
I'm keeping that tape.
Yeah, genius.
Credits on the record.
Yeah.
What's he's got new material. He's got Wow as the single, isn't it? It's quite like
dancey.
Back. Yeah, how did that go down?
It went down really well in the show. I mean, my favourite section was from Morning Phase. You know, his last album, he did like 4 or 5 tracks, and culminating with that song Wave, which to me is really like modern day Scott Walker-y, sort of epic, dark, beautiful tune. And the whole of Brixton kind of went into this weird vortex, synth string vortex, with him singing with this giant echo on his voice. And I wanted more of that, actually. I was kind of really into that. I'd love to see him like with an orchestra or doing some kind of croony, dark, Scott Walker-y show. I think it works really well, yeah.
What did with Morning Phase, because that record in the end ended up winning a Grammy, and like it felt like a couple of years back maybe people kind of woke up to the genius of Beck a little bit. Did you feel like
Kanye didn't though, did he?
No, Kanye didn't. Kanye,
he was like, this is rubbish.
I know.
Beyonce.
Just like, if there's one thing you can count on, it's like Kanye
in Baz,
in situations
in Baz
like
moments.
That.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's been going for so long. Obviously, you go through cycles, don't you? Of I feel like at some points you resonate more and others you don't. But I think if you're an artist on your own little mission, then you just keep making work. And it's interesting for me, like talking about that we started a decade ago or whatever. But I do feel like I always go into an album with the same intentions and the same sort of desire, and like wanting to have integrity and like do something beautiful and to the best of my ability, but you never know how it's going to connect. And I think people sort of fall in and out of love with you, as everyone does with everything, or just, you know, things feel more relevant or more fresh, or I don't know. But I think for someone that's been going for over 20 years, it's almost 30 now, more maybe, I don't know, but I'm sure I think he's had genius moments for sure. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, actually, because we'll obviously talk about The Bride, the new record, but before you go into making a record like The Bride, where you sort of you're telling a story, you're inhabiting a character, do you ever think like, oh, are people going to make this journey with me for this new story, or do you have to, when your creative process, do you just sort of have to, once you've got something that you think, this is great, it's a great idea, I believe in it, you just go and do it? Because otherwise you're second guessing yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's really dangerous territory to bring in the unknown sort of other, like the concept of the audience. I mean, to me that's like suicide, that's creative suicide in a way. Not that I don't appreciate my fans and care and I want them to like stuff, but I believe that if you go into something with conviction and you're really behind it and your heart's in it, then people can't help but feel that, whether they like it or not. There's something to be said for the truth of work. And so yeah, when I went into this, I just had this story that was burning in my soul and wanted to come out, and it wasn't even a character, I'd say. It's more like I just kind of tapped into this kind of universe of the bride, and I knew immediately who she was and what sounds would work, and the colours and the themes and the landscapes and the roads and the pine trees and the fog, and it was just so visceral and strong in my mind that I didn't even second guess it. I was just like, the songs just came out. They just flowed, and that's a beautiful thing as a musician, because I think times where I've had artist blocks is when I've second guessed myself or been trying to sort of deviate from the muse, or kind of push the idea into a context or an agenda. And I think after having done 4 albums, I just will try never to do that again. And if it's not flowing, I often think go and cook something, or do a drawing, or meet up with your friends, or go dancing, or do something else.
And just try and find another moment of inspiration.
Yeah. I think it's. I've been talking quite a lot about multimedia because I'm sort of directing my own films, and I've been directing these videos for the bride and being involved with Neil Krug on all the visuals. But I do feel that creativity isn't just it's not just reduced to one medium. It definitely is. It's just through everything you do, and it's just a way of looking at the world. And so nourishing that creative spirit, I think, to me is the most important thing. So just trying to always I collect imagery, or I read books, and I hang out with people and try and have discussions, and it could be a creative discussion about politics or cooking or art, house design, or whatever it is, but you just keep those cogs going.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that if people aren't familiar by this point, the bride is the story centres around the story of the bride, whose husband-to-be gets killed en route to the wedding, and then the bride goes on this sort of journey of self-reflection and self-discovery, and it's the record itself, to me, having listened to it, is quite heartbreaking because of the way it's the nuance in the way that it's written is brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
So musically, it's fantastic, but then were you to read it through, it kind of is almost like a series of short poems. And then you mentioned there that it clearly lends itself to working as a film, for example. I could just see it listening to it. You could imagine all these different access points for this one record, which I think is really, really interesting and quite amazing achievement, because not many artists can do that, I don't think.
I think it's because just before I did the record, I did loads of reading on screenplay and script writing, and while I was writing the songs for the record, I did direct my first short film, and I do think that was an interesting skill set to apply to an album, because for me, I take I put a lot of time into songwriting as a craft and a skill, and I don't think telling a story should necessarily take away from the skill of songwriting and making songs that stand alone melodically and chordally. But the other interesting thing was to balance that character arc and the narrative thread of tension from beginning, middle to end, and I feel like I've discovered a whole new way of doing albums that I really enjoy, and that's quite different, and it kind of, to me, it feeds my sort of detective kind of detailed sort of brain, where I love to set myself a challenge, and I still love, the idea of albums that have disparate songs that are maybe sort of loosely thematically linked, but just the whole feeling of this being a storytelling exercise, it's kind of feels liberating, like it's broke me out of that record industry idea of what an album should be, and who knows anymore anyway, because music's so kind of morphing and changing all the time, and the way we process it and digest music is so different. So I'm just going off on my own little weird tangent, but I'm actually really happy.
Before we go back and talk about the bride, we mentioned at the top that just the last week or so in Britain and the kind of strange feeling that we all sort of seem to be having.
Yeah.
I mean, you spent some time in New York recently. You're currently in London. I mean, what are the kind of senses that you've got? How are you feeling about everything and just the atmosphere that's generally around?
I mean, it's so hard because, well, I just had a Guardian interview and I had to kind of put into a paragraph how I feel, and it's such a multi-layered political and emotional debate, and there's so much going on about identity crisis, and but I just feel like with what I would say first, and similarly to what I said in the Guardian interview, is that I am a product of multiculturalism and immigration. And, my dad's from Pakistan and he met my English mum, and I was born, and that was because he was allowed to come and work in the country. And I feel like the cultural kind of richness and input that I had as a little girl going to Pakistan and living in England was so wonderful and so interesting, and has really made me who I am, and quite broad-minded because of that, and accepting of other people's beliefs and ways of being. And I feel quite open to any kind of religion or belief and way of living your life, because we're all global citizens and we have to coexist. And I think underlyingly, without getting into Brexit and all the the details of what's happening, I think as an overall picture, for me, what seems to be happening is there's a breakdown of old systems and traditions that aren't serving us anymore and are kind of irrelevant in terms of what we're facing as a global community, which I think are like huge issues about war and, war creating refugee crises and, are the corporate and arms kind of role in all of those things, and globalisation and environmental issues that sorely need addressing. And just our general, I think what's happening is the population is having huge anxiety on a collective level about the fact that these old constructs that are like old dinosaur ways of doing things just haven't been serving us for so long, and we've been gripping on for dear life. And I do feel that even though it's going to be painful and it's confusing, I'm having major anxiety like all the time. And I feel really raw and sensitive and kind of frightened and a bit sad, and I'm finding it really difficult at the moment. But I think that's a symptom of all of these things breaking down, and if I'm to be sort of honest about it, I think those things do need to break down, and things might need to get worse before they get better. But I honestly think that this is the part where you're kind of pulling the plaster off, and it's like, and you're doing it really slowly, and it's like, I don't want to look at the wound. But there's been something festering for a long time, and the fact that there's racism on the streets and people are pissed off, and it's like all these things, and I just feel loads of compassion for everyone involved from all different sides, because whatever education you've had or whatever reasons you voted, or for whatever personal experience you've been having, we're all just grasping to keep our heads above water in a time that's full of change and flux and disintegration of like some very old held beliefs and ways of doing things. And if we are to deconstruct those things, it's going to be painful, but I really believe that we need to, because we have to approach things differently and with more compassion and more tolerance and more foresight and more intelligence and communication. And it sounds idealistic, but I really hope that that is an opportunity we'll have.
It sounds like you feel kind of like compelled to be hopeful about it, because I think a lot of people feel that way, in the sense that I think you've articulated the way that so many people feel in terms of that mixture of feelings, but you've got to have some hope that there's going to be, perhaps it is, if some of those old systems have kind of effectively been burnt to the ground by what's happened, then there has to be a new beginning, hopefully.
I mean, I'm not trying to kind of like wangle it back to myself, but I would say that with The Bride, that's the exact journey I feel I was trying to talk about. And I think that's why so many people are resonating with it to me, because it's not just a journey of love or like romance. The melodrama in the story of The Bride is a great narrative construct. But if you scrape that surface away, it's about the death of something that you had a hope for, and the death of safety, and the death of feeling that someone's going to rescue you. And I do feel that we've thought our government for so long are going to be like this sort of parental rescuing parent, like the nanny state sort of ideal. And actually, I don't think it is up to the government to rescue us. I think we have to realise it starts at home, it starts with our neighbours, it starts with the way we look at other people and our differences. And the government can't help but listen to the people if things start from the ground up. Like, that's proven. And unfortunately, we haven't let the government kind of lie to us. I mean, they have lied to us, but I think it's because we need to get more politicised and we need to get more involved. And perhaps the fact that these questions are on our doorstep is making everyone think about it. And in a way, that's good because we're not apathetic.
Yeah.
And in the bride's story, you know, she loses that thing, and what follows is anger. Like a song like Never Forgive the Angels, it's like, fuck you, I'll never forgive you for the fact that you've taken this away from me. And when I sing it live, I feel the audience, and we're all, you know, we understand what anger is, and darkness and disappointment and fear and like just everything being in chaos. And I think that's a valid human feeling, and it is it's a very relevant and important part of the grieving process. So I wouldn't say to people, don't feel angry, don't feel sad. We have to go through these feelings. But ultimately, I am a hopeful person because I don't think you can just have darkness, darkness, darkness and no light. Like there's a natural order and a cycle of things. And life always, things burn away and die, and then there's always new growth. It's just the way of the world. So you know, and the bride ultimately does end up in a hopeful and more mature, grounded, kind of calm, reflective and intelligent place as a human being. She's evolved as a human, and she's more aware of the dark and the light, and she's not just in this kind of blurry, fuzzy like ideal of sleepwalking through fantasy anymore. And I think it's a great analogy. Yeah.
Maybe I mean, there's a song on the album that's kind of like a vision of something that's going to happen in the future. Maybe you predict the chaos, Natasha.
Well, I think, you know, if you do make work and stuff, you have to be tapped into the zeitgeist. Like you have to tap into the unconscious. Ball. Yeah, I've got special crystal balls, massive and massive.
So on the subject of the bride and weddings, before we talk about the plans that we've kind of got together at this year's End of the Road Festival, which is going to be exciting, weddings in general, on a much happier note, I'm sure you've been to many great weddings, family and friends weddings, as I have over the years. What are you generally like fond of a good knees up at a wedding?
Yeah, I love a wedding. I think it's so romantic, and you know, regardless of the bride's journey, I do think marriage is a heroic step, and I really kind of I look up to people that make that decision to do it, you know, in the right way, which is committing to be with someone through the ups and downs of life, which is fucking hard, and also that people are real and disappointing, and you know, nothing's always perfect. So I love a good wedding. I always cry. I always get a little bit more drunk than I should, and then cry a bit more. And I love the speeches.
What would be your favourite things about speeches? Because I'm always you get great speeches and you get
really
speeches.
Shockers, yeah.
I've seen some terrible ones. Ones that I think the speeches that go wrong tend to be the ones that people have just Googled and just found, like, you know, they've just Googled like best man speech.
Yeah. Just generic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they start with the same joke and you're like, oh no, they've just taken the top rank best man speech. The ones that go on too long.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when you watch speeches that go on for like more than an hour or something, the whole like audio visual thing, like the pictures of friends and stuff,
like a cube, like a, what's it called, a point presentation, power presentation.
A picture of Martin dressed
as a chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some of the speeches, I mean, I have been fortunate enough to have some really charismatic, like really funny speeches and embarrassing speeches. I like it when people are quite real and they just like they don't try and sugarcoat this person that's getting married. They just tell it like it is. I think that's funny. But the funniest thing I've seen in a wedding is a YouTube video of this guy playing like with a sort of Michael Bolton hairstyle, playing a really bad synthesizer, and doing like with a the sort of demo beat behind it, and then the bride and groom come up to do their first dance, and I think something happens like the groom groom spins the bride around, like flings her about, and she falls into the guy on the microphone, and the microphone goes down his throat.
What?
So he starts going, like this really fucked up, like like a death metal sound of like just the grossest, most terrifying sound ever, because the microphone stuck down his throat with just a wire coming out. It's so dark.
Whoa.
And can you imagine if that was your wedding?
Oh my God.
I love it. I love a really disgusting dark YouTube clip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Means you can get trapped in all that stuff. Keep going.
Yeah, I just get lost for days. But yeah, that one's particularly amazing.
So when I got married, my brother did the best man speech, and he did a very inventive speech because he did it in the style of a game show that he was hosting.
Aww.
And he put up like different selections, and he asked for like crowd participation to choose like the answers to different questions about me. And then had giant gold balloons with an enormous picture of my face on.
That's amazing.
He got like friends of mine onto the stage to present the awards, and the punchline was that I won every award, so I kept having to get back up on the stage. And it was. I don't know where he got the idea from. It was pretty amazing.
That's really clever. Yeah, he put a lot of time into it. That's sweet.
He did. So in September at End of the Road Festival, you are headlining on Saturday night, and Loud and Quiet is going to host the bride's wedding reception.
Yeah.
Do you want us to bring anything? Do you want any sausage rolls? Do you want bacon patties?
Can I have pineapple and cheese sticks?
Yeah.
Just to be old school. Yeah, all the weddings I've been to with my aunties and uncles in the 80s, like that was the, of their friends and stuff. But I would love it if would you wear a giant puffy 80s meringue wedding dress?
Would I wear one?
Yeah.
Whoa. Can't put me on the spot.
Now you have to.
Oh God. Maybe Stuart from Loud and Quiet.
Yeah, you're like passing the back now.
Exactly.
That's one request.
I will. I will bring. I was thinking I need to get like a proper top hat and tails.
Oh, that would be
obviously
nice.
an official event. But I don't necessarily know where I'm going to find one of those, and I don't think it's not traditional festival wear, is it?
No.
But hey.
Well,
it's the spirit of it all.
yeah, I think top hat could be quite festively. It's quite Mad Hatter, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think cheese and pineapple sticks would be nice. Just
party rings.
Yeah. Some helium balloons, and what's kind of the classic wedding thing that everyone brings but no one really likes?
I could bring like a China tea set for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. Can I have a John Lewis voucher?
Do you want? Have you made a gift list yet? Have you made a gift list?
No, I will though. If we're going to actually go that conceptual.
Yeah, exactly. You do that on the day
This is great.
Hey guys, I made a gift list.
Yeah, that's such a good idea.
Amazing.
Milk it for all it is. Yeah.
Somebody will send you like a microwave and chili.
Do you know what? I did actually get a lovely gift in New York when we played our show there recently in Williamsburg. I've got a fan there called Will, who's been a fan for 10 years, and I see him at every single show, and he's so sweet. But he brought me two crystal wedding glasses with pearls inside the base after Pearl. This character from my second album, but what a thoughtful gift. He was like, I bought you a wedding present. And he was like, I was just like, this is so sweet. So I put them on my shelf when I got home. So that was
next
nice.
to your decanter and his special place.
No, I have the full freaking, dining set and a little like mini bar or whatever.
Yeah,
Get my crystal glasses out. Very 80s.
Do you get some great and strange gifts for weddings? I think? Can't really beat a good old John Lewis voucher.
No, exactly.
So on the night we are hosting the bride's wedding reception, and we're going to be playing some records. And we spoke about this a bit briefly before, but like, what are some top wedding tunes? What, like, in terms of the dance floor at a wedding, a great wedding, what tune gets you on the dance floor at a wedding?
My family parties and weddings always seem to revolve around Shaka Khan, I Feel For You, and Michael Jackson, You've Got to Be Starting Something, and probably a bit of Donna Summer, and those sort of like woo, you know, like everyone's clapping and doing like the Carlton from Fresh Prince dance. That's my family. So I love all that, like Dancing on the Ceiling by Lionel Richie, just cheese, basically, like happy cheese.
Amazing.
Motown.
I think anything that can basically get like little kids running
and
into
grannies.
the dance floor. Yeah, that's it. Isn't
Yeah,
it? Like,
the full spectrum.
The grannies doing the old granny dance like this at the back of the room. They're just like
the lap slap.
The lap slap, and then the kids just like sliding across the dance knees. That's
Yeah.
I think you're doing something right.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to that night. I think it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Final couple of questions on the bride. You did some great gigs earlier this year where you took the album and performed it in very appropriate venues in churches around the UK and in America as well. I was just interested to know, are there any amazing cathedrals or churches you've ever visited around the world that you just thought, I'd love to play there, even if it's like an impossible dream? Like, is it like, I don't know, whether it's like the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona or...
That's an amazing space. Yeah. That was always covered in scaffolding every time I saw it.
Yeah, I don't know, they finished it.
Oh, they haven't finished it still.
They've been to the building about every 5 years. They kind of stop and they go, we need a bit more money to build another spire, and so they get a bit of a whip round and then they start again, I think.
Yeah, I've heard about a cave that you can play in. I think it's in Italy. There's like a system of caves that you can play in, which I think are sort of nature's cathedrals.
Yeah.
So to play around stalactites and stalagmites and like in the dark like that, it might be a bit boomy and cavernous for the sound, but an acoustic gig in there with bats and stuff would be cool. The Sacré-Cœur would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we can make that happen. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Europe's not picking up now, is
Yeah,
it?
no. I'd be like, F off. Gosh, I'm trying to think of... I'm sure there's some like really incredible modernist, like weird modernist building, like a James Bond style.
There's an incredible
space.
church in... I don't know if you've ever visited Iceland, but...
Yes, the one in Reykjavik, the Viking. It looks like a Viking boat.
It's kind of like chiselled to...
a big point, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good suggestion. I've actually been in there and it's amazing.
Okay.
I love Iceland. Yeah, that's a good point. I'd do
Even
that.
if you're just beating us in football.
Yeah.
We didn't really mind in the end.
No.
Because we like Iceland.
Yeah, Iceland are cool.
And the final question was around, I read that you were going to kind of go and do, you seem like somebody who's always kind of like naturally inquisitive to like, you know, learn new skills and kind of just sort of keep your mind open and do new things. And you're going to take a course in Japanese woodblock art making, is that right?
Woodblock printing.
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
that?
it's because I've been exploring monoprint, which is like a way of line drawing through paper that has oil paint on it, and so it does a relief kind of line. So when you lift off the paper, you have this sort of beautiful painterly but line drawing. And I just really love... I've been exploring a lot of mid-century artists that drew places like Big Sur and Point Lobos and all these places along the Pacific Coastal Highway. And they used a tradition of Japanese woodblock. And so what you do is you carve out your design into wood, and you can kind of print several times with different colours on top of each other, and you gradually sort of carve away till you reach the last print. So it's a bit like screen printing, like Andy Warhol or something, but it's more, it's just more delicate and more beautiful for landscape. And so just because I've been making these photographic art books with Neil Krug, and I'm doing painting and learning this printing technique, and I'm making films, and basically I just love to start up a workshop where I just start making everything on all different levels and putting it out somehow. So I want to increase my skills and also to start collaborating with designers and people that work on making beautiful art objects, but also incorporating like educational aspects, environmental aspects, creative mentorship with kids, and just a way of sort of raising the level of output into something that's not just denoted by the music industry and their timings, because my deal is up next week when the album comes out, so I fulfilled my 4-album deal on a mainstream label, and I think it's been amazing, but I'm kind of really excited about constructing my own way of being a creative person in this day and age, and how to get more work out and interact with more people and raise the vibration of creativity to something that it used to be, which I think was just very high quality and multi-layered, and just not just for the sort of the mainstream radio or the elite or whatever. It's like having a really nice conversation with everyday people about looking at things creatively.
Does that feel exciting? Because obviously there are some people that would work with a kind of a major label and feel comforted by the not the safety net, but they're just the existing structure of it all, and it's a business and they've done these things so many times they kind of know what they're doing. But is there something that you're kind of looking forward to, being the sort of liberation of doing your own thing? Is that exciting?
Yeah, because I've played that game for a long time, for almost 10 years, and I've enjoyed it, and there's certain benefits and certain things that are hard about it, and I feel very lucky that I got to develop my skills and kind of reach so many people within that construct, and it did work for the time that I was doing it. But I think, like we were saying earlier, things are changing, and I'm scared. Everyone's scared of change, and it is it's alluring to be part of a construct and something that's tried and tested, and sometimes stepping out onto the edge and being on your own with something is terrifying. But I always think my biggest successes have come from that, from being brave and taking a risk and doing something a bit differently if you can, and it's served me up until this point, so I'm going to keep trying. I'm like,
no, it sounds exciting. The plans, your vision of what you want to do sounds really exciting. And
I hope so.
I kind of wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you for being our guest on Midnight Chats.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming in. Good luck with the release of The Bride.
Thank you.
We are looking forward to seeing you in September, End of the Road. We're having a big party. I mean, it feels... I'm headlining, and then we're going to have a big wedding party, but I feel like, it's going to be a drunken after party of a fictional bride wedding that everyone would have attended, and then I'm going to challenge you to a breakdance in the middle of the crowd. Right.
Like, we have to create a circle.
Right, me versus you, like...
Yeah, I mean, anyone else who wants to join in, but we definitely have to do that at some point.
Right, yeah. I need to brush up on those skills, because, my dancing is awful. Okay, but I'll rise to the challenge.
Yeah, well, what's often the worst breakdancing is often the funniest, so don't worry about it. It's just, we can all laugh and point at you.
Yeah, okay. Brilliant.
I'm not going to be any better. I'm just going to sort of pretend to stand on my head and show everyone my pants, so it'll be fine.
Well, maybe, I might have to do some yoga or something before then, so.
Don't put your neck out.
No, exactly, I can't even decide.
Split your trousers.
If it happened to anybody, it happened to me. Cool, well, we'll look forward to it. But, we'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Brilliant.